Happy holidays, everyone. Welcome to USA Global TV and hello to our friends listening on Business Talk Radio. Hi to Chris Roberts, the head broadcast engineer there. We are so grateful for you. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show today is a world of difference. And taking this journey with me each and every week is my good friend, colleague, and co-host, Mr. Hardeep. Welcome.
Welcome, Jacalyn. How are you? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. It's every week. I can't believe how quickly time goes by. But then I see your smiling face and just so excited to have this show with you.
Likewise, Jacalyn. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I love it as well. And you've brought a wonderful guest as always. But before we bring him out, let's hear about you and the work that you're doing at Kaleidoscope Group and all of the wonderful hearts and lives that you're touching each week. You've had a viral post, parents, people reaching out to you from all over the world. Tell us what's going on.
Oh, thank you, Jacalyn. Well, as most of you may know now, Kaleidoscope is an organization that really helps to support people with disabilities along their career journeys. You know, it helps them to become entrepreneurs or it helps them to find employment. But actually, what we're fast becoming nowadays is we're becoming, human beings that actually just connect with people with disabilities on so many different levels. And the post that you're talking about, Jacalyn, is still going up in numbers. It's just over 4.1 million now with Ishan. And this followed his birthday post some time ago. And I'm very excited to say that on Saturday, we actually have our first parent group session on LinkedIn. So we set up a parent group called Parents of Children with Special Needs. And the aim there is really to help parents that have children with special needs to just share and learn from each other. And on Saturday, we're having our first session and we're going to really open it out to anyone that wants to join and just talk about their children, talk about their journeys and what they've had. And it's really taking us in lots of different directions. And I think that philosophically, as far as I'm concerned, you've got to continue to read the signs in life about things that are happening in the direction that you're being pushed into. So it's really exciting. And I think the other thing that's exciting, Jacalyn, is there are a lot of companies that are really thinking now about doing a lot more with diversity and inclusion. And obviously in the run up to Christmas, they're shutting down, but we've seen a lot of interest from the new year with companies wanting to get more involved in how can we bring more diverse people into our workforce. So there's some really encouraging things that have been happening lately that I'm proud to say.
Hardeep, this is super exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jacalyn. Thank you. We've got to see where the demand is. I think any business out there that's operating, you have to listen to customers. I think a lot of mistakes that we make as entrepreneurs is that we think we know what people want, whereas actually we have to ask. And I think what's come out of this post is that people are telling us what they want. And it's down to us to listen. And you know what was really amazing as well, Jacalyn, is that we actually got an investor, funnily enough, that just came through 2 days ago from the post. They heard about the post, they read about the post, they asked us about Kaleidoscope, and they put a little bit of money in. It's just, how I would have thought a birthday post could have led to something like that was beyond me, to be honest, but it did. So it just goes to show that when you do things very authentically and without an agenda, without an intention, then kind of the universe is open to you.
Wow, that is fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jacalyn.
2 questions I have for people who are watching and they haven't read the post. Where can they find it? And what are you hearing is from people, you forming this group now for parents, what was the key message that people took away that drew them to you?
So great questions, Jacalyn. I feel I'm being interviewed today. Amo in the background there. So I think they could, first of all, anyone can follow me on LinkedIn. So if they just go to Hardeep right, and then they put in the Kaleidoscope group of companies, then hopefully they'll come up, and you can see some of my posts and some of my blogs on there that I write. And the difference, I suppose, Jacalyn, with the way that I'm writing now is that I'm writing as a human being rather than a business person on LinkedIn. And I think that's a difference, because a lot of people on LinkedIn are just business networking. It feels, I heard a word the other day called plastic. You know, relationships on LinkedIn feel very plastic. But if we allow ourselves to be genuine, then that's how we engage people, I think. And what I have observed is that the biggest question that I had that came out of the post, and it was a very innocent birthday post that basically said, you know, I was sort of reflecting on Ishan's birthday about the time that he was born and what I went through. And I sort of, you know, just summarized that very succinctly on the post. But the real messages I'm getting, Jacalyn, from other parents is, how did I come to terms with accepting Ishan's disability, right? What was that process? What did I go through? So with some of the talks I'm doing now, I'm being very open about it. I'm talking about my own mental health, and I'm saying, this person that you're looking at today that is sort of composed and seems like everything is all right, it's not the person for a good 5 years after Ishan's birth. So I think people want to know that Hardeep, actually, rather than this composed Hardeep. But how did I get from where I was to where I am today? Right? That's the journey that I think a lot of parents are interested in learning more about. And not just from me, it's from others, because every parent has got a journey that has a, you know, and we're talking about parents, but it could be siblings as well. Each of them have some kind of journey that's very powerful that we can learn from. Right. So I definitely don't want this to become the Hardeep show, Jacalyn. I really mean that. Right. And for me, I'm a facilitator and I'm a moderator, but I really want other people to start sharing. So that's the crux of it. I think it's, how did you accept the situation? What process did you go through? And probably what can they take away that's going to teach them? That's what I would say the core message seems to be, Jacalyn.
You really explained that very well. It's like you took off this suit of armor and you're just a human being, and you put it out there, and probably so many parents were feeling what you were feeling, and you gave them a space to be able to feel safe with you. So I think that that's truly amazing.
Thank you, Jacalyn. So I should probably introduce our guest for tonight now, shouldn't I?
Sure, go ahead, please.
So our guest is a wonderful gentleman called Amo Raju, somebody that actually I only met fairly recently. I would say probably 2 to 3 months ago. So it's been a very recent relationship that we've just built. And believe it or not, we haven't even met in person. It's been conversations or a couple of calls like this. But I was really inspired by Amo, because one of the first things he did for me, you know, for Kaleidoscope, is that he was prepared to share his learnings from his charitable journey with some of the trustees on my charity. Right. And he just sat with us, he opened up, he explained, and he runs a very successful charity with a fantastic turnover, which I'm sure he'll go into. But he shared those learnings and his journey. And he is the living proof of an entrepreneur that's sort of been through a good 20 years of strife, ups and downs. And, you know, he's been a politician, he's done lots of different things, but he's sort of got to a point of success now where he can look back and say, right, I want to give back to the community. As an Asian, he wants to do more with Asian people with disabilities as well. He's just written a book. I love a quote on his website, which is sort of, you know, when you're thinking about it, whilst you're thinking about it, I've already done it. Yeah. You know, it's kind of that mindset. And I was just saying this to him earlier, which is, I love that, because that's such an entrepreneurial characteristic, right? We think, we procrastinate, do we do this, do we do that? He just does it. You know, he does it, he learns, he makes mistakes, and he sort of, you know, corrects them. So I thought he would be really interesting today, because I feel he's very relatable. I feel he's very honest, he's very genuine, and he's very real. You know, there's none of this artificiality. So that's why I thought it would be wonderful for us to have him today, Jacalyn, so he can share his story for everyone else to hear.
I can't wait to bring him out. Welcome to the program.
Oh, well, thank you very much. What an intro.
I know. That's fantastic.
Your £100 was well paid. I hope I did you justice.
Absolutely. There's another check in the post.
Well, it's really nice to have you here as well, Amo. Thank you very much for your time. So I guess the best thing to do would be to hand over to you and ask you to explain a little bit about your background and who you are, so people can get a better understanding of your journey, sir.
Okay, so my name is Amo Raju, Amo Singh Raju. Amo is actually short for Amajit, but most people, as I was growing up, decided to put give me the nickname of Amo, so that's kind of stuck with me. I am now 53 years old. I was a child of the late 60s, and born to immigrant parents in the UK, who had only just arrived in the UK a couple of years earlier. I'm a disabled person. I have a condition called cerebral palsy, which is a milder form known as diplegia, which affects the right side of my body. So I have a different walk to the mainstream walk. But in all honesty, I've lived a fairly mainstream life, which I have just captured in to date in a book, which we'll probably talk about later on. I, for the last 27 years, have worked for and then run a charity in Derby in the UK called Disability Direct, which today is one of the biggest local charities in the UK. We employ 50 plus paid staff and around 30 plus volunteers, all doing a variety of projects, most of which it came from this grey matter here, and then the staff take over and deliver it better than I could ever have done. And that's one of my kind of mantras and mottos, to surround myself with people who are better than me, and more skilled than me. So I just go out in front of a camera and take the credit, like a true ex-politician does. But yeah, so that's me. I'm married. I've got 3 grown-up children. I have two grandchildren as well now. So I'm as you can see, the grey beard is taken over my facial hair now, and I'm a bit of a wise old fox, as they say, as my peers say anyway. My wife said something completely different.
Brilliant. Do you know, I didn't realize that you're a grandfather.
I am, yes.
Goodness me.
Two very, very small children. We got married young, and then my children got married young, and we've got grandchildren.
Fantastic. That's amazing. So, you know, one question, actually, did you want to ask a question first, Jacalyn?
No, go ahead. I'll wait for your question.
Okay, I was going to say one question. You know, just getting straight in there, Amo, you said something about surrounding yourself by people that are better than you are, and actually one of the challenges for a lot of business owners, including me, is that yes, that's a very important thing to do, but what if they then start telling you to do things that you disagree with, right? How do you tend to deal with that situation?
Good question. I mean, I surround myself with people who have more experience and more energy. I'm an ideas kind of person. I have the vision of what I want, and then they are the implementers. And if they are doing something which kind of goes off track from the original plan or the original vision, then that's when I get back into the mix and say, this is what I want to achieve. And there has been the odd occasion where they probably proved themselves right, and I'll go with that. As long as we achieve the original outcome, the path there to me is not relevant. I'm more interested in making sure that the people that we're wishing to serve are still getting a service, and whichever path we take to get there, as long as it's efficient, then I've got no qualms. I've got no overall worries.
Understood. Thank you. Sorry, Jacalyn, over to you.
I was wondering, so many businesses have really struggled and had really had to change their business plan, how they're going to be moving forward. We've got supply chain issues. There's all kinds of things going across the world. How is it that you have been able to continue moving forward successfully and surrounding yourself with people who you look up to?
Well, the thing is, I mean, I have, as I say, I've got 50 plus staff. The vast majority of my immediate managers, who, in all honesty, do most of the work, they've been with me on average about 10 to 15 years each. And the reason is they all started from the front line themselves, worked their way up into that position. And one of the things of any business or charity as well is to keep reinventing itself, to look in the mirror every now and then and say, are we still relevant? Whatever we were set up to do all those decades ago, is the need still the same? Is the outcome still the same? Are the people still the same? And often businesses and charities don't have that true conversation with itself, and sometimes ego steps in and says, hang on, no, I set this up in 1970 something, and then over my dead body will we change our ways. And that becomes their downfall, because they're not willing to change and adapt to the new world. The pandemic that took place, or we're still in it actually, aren't we? And that was another turning point for my charity, where we had to quickly overnight, when we went into lockdown, like many companies did, had to just say, well, are we still relevant? What are we going to do now? I'm not going to put my staff onto furlough and let them sit around. What do they do? We got out there and back into the community where we started all those years ago, and started delivering food parcels, starting delivery, protective personal equipment, just delivering medical supplies, those kind of things. And now that is part of our core activity. So any business or charity has to keep looking in the mirror and not necessarily stick to a rigid business plan, which can be its downfall.
That's a great answer. Thank you very much. I do have a follow-up question, if that's okay, Hardeep.
Of course, please.
So my follow-up question is, in running a successful charity, I'm very involved with the Crohn's Colitis Foundation on the board, and I know it's difficult year after year to get that mind share of people, because there are so many distractions, there are so many charities, so many really great causes. How do you think a charity can keep themselves relevant? And fundraising obviously is a big part of a charity, right? How do you get that mind share from the person out there who's being pulled and asked to do this, volunteer here, give money there? What does that look like for you?
Well, for us, you see, my charity is quite unique. You'll have to excuse me, I've got a bit of a cough. And my charity is quite unique in that we are not so today, and have been, as has been the case for at least a decade, we've not been reliant on grants and donations, because we took a decision back in 2005 or 6, I think it was, that it seemed quite controversial at the time, that we need to charge for some of our services. And whether it's charge our direct service users or charge our peer agencies and the wider business sector, because we looked at the strengths of the organization. I could see that, you see, certainly in the UK, it's very difficult to get donations for disability charities, particularly working with adults, disabled adults. So grants were more a common thing than donations. But even the grants started to dry up because government priorities, national priorities, national mood swings shift. And quite rightly, because there are other well-deserving causes as well. So my board of trustees, we had a one of those honest conversations and said, we've got to charge for services, and this gravy train is going to run out soon. No one's going to keep funding us the way they do. So overnight, we decided to look at where we could charge. And in our case, we started charging for disability equality training to businesses. We started providing payroll services for social care recipients, budget recipients, and we started off with 10 clients to 500 clients, and today we've got 2,500 clients across the UK. And so, I mean, the story now is 95% of our income is self-generated. We don't rely on those grants. So any grants and donations we get are a bonus and enhance our ability to do what we want to do. So we're not totally reliant on those. So when the public are asked to donate to us, we as I say, we very rarely get any donations from the public. What we ask for from the public is to look at their own families, their own neighborhoods, and say, well, if you've got disabled people in your family or in your neighborhoods, plug into our services and see what you can do to provide support through paid staff and through your own volunteering connections with us. And that's normally the best way of doing it. And you're right that people do get pulled in a lot of different directions. There's so many deserving causes out there which people do. And plus, when you look at some of these advertising campaigns from some of the bigger charities, they are quite emotive. They do kind of say, oh, hang on, come and volunteer for us. And smaller charities will struggle then to attract that time bank of people. So it is a challenge, but as I say, back to my previous answer, if we keep reinventing ourselves and make ourselves relevant, it makes it more likely that those people are going to kind of attach themselves to you.
Thank you. That was so insightful. And I love the forward thinking from all the way back to 2005 and how you anticipate all this. Bravo.
Thank you. Yeah. And it's, I'm really pleased. Just to give you an example, when I started at Disability Direct, the charity that I run, in 1994, I started there. Every major UK city had a similar organization to mine. Today, I'm sad to say, there's probably only a handful left. And those handfuls that are still going have adopted the same model that we have in terms of charging for services, and are quite self-reliant. So yeah, but that's the world we live in, and I really do wish that there'd be more charities that take that step. It doesn't have to be in the UK; it could be anywhere. The charities have got expertise, which often we can do things faster and more efficient than the business or the public sector. We don't have those layers of bureaucracy that slow other sectors down. We can just get on with it. So we are quite an attractive partner to commission a project to.
Do you know, it's a really interesting point, actually, because there's a lot of controversy around charities at the moment, and you're right, there's donation fatigue, and there's a lot of people that are not interested in donating to charities. They just want them to be self-sufficient. Well, actually, they don't want you to be self-sufficient, but you as a charity want to be self-sufficient. So it sounds like you were market leading, especially in terms, Amo, of getting these other charities to think like you. But I suppose sometimes the business world criticize charities when they do think like that, because then their attitude is, well, maybe you should be a business rather than a charity. What would you say to somebody if they took that view?
And that has been the case. Some businesses got quite vocal about our entry into their market, but equally, the business sector has been quite predatory in the charity market. Originally, services that were originally commissioned to charities, you found the business sector swimming in that pond too, trying to take some of those contracts, and in some cases they did. And my organization has always said, well, bring it on. If if you're going to start a charity, go for a contract in the charity sector, good luck to you. And if you do a good job of it, so be it. But in my experience, that hasn't been the case. I'll give you a quick example. In the early 2000s, local authorities were bedazzled by some of the big charities and the big businesses coming into to do contracts because they were branded names. And after about a decade, I made the prediction to the local authorities that you seem quite excited by their offer at the moment, but when the money starts to dry out, which I know it will with public sector commission services, they'll leave you. They'll leave your ship while it's sinking. And that's exactly what happened. And I had to take over two operations in Derby in the UK, which were previously run by commercial businesses. And it's quite sad because at the end of the day, the service user, the disabled person who was receiving that service, was treated like some kind of a commodity, and not they forgot that these are real people who had feelings and services and expectations. I'm pleased to say that 11, 12 years later, we are still running those projects. We've taken them off contract, and they're totally independent, and actually they're running with a profit.
Wow.
I've always said keep things local. The public now, whichever part of the world you are in, wants to know that when you spend your pound, dollar, rupee, whatever, when you're spending it in your local economy, where's that currency going? Is it stretching to the capital city, or is it staying locally? Because if it's staying locally, it's bound to come back to me some way. And that psyche, we're trying to tap into that. If you keep it local, it's going to keep the local economy thriving. And so that's what I'm trying to preach to as many partners as possible, that you cannot beat local expertise, local economy. Now I go shopping to the supermarket, the mall, as you say in the USA, on a Saturday, every Saturday, and I want to look my service users in the face when I'm pushing that trolley of my goods. I often get stopped and I have a conversation with people, and they always say that when a contract is run by a company or a charity with a head office in London or somewhere else, they can't make that connection with the individual because they don't live in the locality. They have they don't live and breathe the local air, so they don't understand the culture, the local politics, the local need. And I always get stopped, literally every weekend, wherever I go, I'll get stopped and they'll say, you helped my so-and-so cousin, you helped my auntie here, you did this, you did that. I personally didn't do it. They're talking about the organization I work for. And that's the best feeling on the planet. And I want to keep that going. That's why I'm still doing the job, the same job 27 years later, because it does wonders for my ego, just every time I get stopped.
Well, that's a nice element of ego, right? That's a good ego, not a bad ego.
Yes, it is.
And that journey now you've kind of encapsulated into a book, haven't you, Amo? Do you want to tell us a little bit about your book, sir?
Sure. Yeah, of course. So it was only about 2 or 3 years ago that I openly started talking about a secret that I'd kept to myself. And it was such a big secret that not even my wife and children knew about it. And that secret was that I had been having a lifelong battle with depression. My mental health was all over the place sometimes. And I'd go into this dark hole mentally and disappear for days and weeks sometimes. I'd be wearing a mask when I was talking to people, and they didn't really know what was going on. But as I get older, I started getting a bit more vocal about things. I'd sit there shouting at the TV when things weren't right, or I'd find myself in meetings saying, "Hang on, no, that's not right. This is what I think about that." And afterwards, I'd say, "Gosh, I've become quite vocal about something." And I don't know how it happened, but one day I just admitted it, that I've had depression. and such to the extent that I had been secretly going for therapy over 3 decades. Now, somebody said to me, not somebody, many people actually said to me that, I mean, you've lived some kind of exciting life. And the truth is, when I looked back at it, see, I left school with no qualifications. I had no training. I became a semi-successful Bhangra singer. You may or may not know this, but I've got out there in the ether somewhere. There's three albums with my vocals on it, Bhangra albums.
Right.
And so I've been, fairly successful on stage and in recording studios. And then from nothing, I worked my up to be a CEO of a charity and a business. And then I had a short stint in politics. I even, within a year, was promoted to cabinet member position locally. And these kind of things, they said, don't happen to the mainstream person, but you as a disabled person from a minority community, you've achieved all of them. Perhaps you need to write a book. And then I said, well, why? And then somebody did say, this will inspire the next generation of disabled people that things can be achieved. And that's when it was around Christmas 2019, I started putting pen to paper, and I realized that I didn't want to write a book that, a classic autobiography where I said, well, I woke up and I did this, and then the next day I did that, and then this happened to me. I thought even I'd get bored of that if I was trying to read it. So what I did was I created a protagonist in there. The main character is totally me. He's based on me. His name's AJ. He's based on me. And everything that happens to him in the book happened to me. The only thing that isn't true in the book is the very beginning and the very end. Everything in between is every single experience, and some of them are quite, I've had so much feedback from people who I don't even know say, gosh, that cannot happen to one person, but it is, honest to God, it's true. I can't reveal too much because there's so many things in there that what I wanted to do was to show examples of how disability is all about social attitude, society's attitude, rather than the impairment itself. And that's what I think, and I hope, and as I say, so the feedback so far is that people say it's resonating with so many people on so many levels. I just wanted to get a book out there. I didn't think it was going to be receive the attention that it has, and it's, as I say, I think that just shows that it was needed. A real honest tale of what can be achieved as a disabled person, and so many people already have said it's inspired them, and so that's what that's what it is. And I say, here's the book. It's called Walk Like a Man, and it tackles strongly the theme of disability and depression, and how a person over 3 decades, he has this relationship with depression. I call it a relationship with depression because sometimes he wins, sometimes depression wins, and sometimes they end up in some kind of armistice, where they just kind of just say, okay, let's just call it a draw and get on with life. And there's a lot of real pain in there, but there's a lot of humor in there, because a lot of people don't realize this. People with depression aren't sitting there doomy and gloomy all day. They do have a giggle and a laugh sometimes, and I have had along the way a few giggles. I've laughed. I've laughed immensely, and a lot of it's in the book, and so yeah, and I'm, as I say, it's available on Amazon. A lot of people are buying it, and it's, as I say, it's exceeded expectations.
That's amazing.
That's fantastic.
Did you want to? Shall I give you a chance, Jacalyn, before I go for my next one? Did you want to get in a word edgeways?
I just wanted to congratulate you because, to your point, no one knew. You held this inside for all this time, and now that you're sharing it, people are just so grateful and buying the book, because so many people suffer with mental health issues, and there's been this stigma for so long that I think is finally being put to rest. But I really congratulate you on opening your heart and not being afraid to share who you really are, and what a big part of your life has included with depression.
Well, thank you very much. And the truth is, I had to be honest, because I didn't just write it myself. I had a co-writer, and I wrote the first chapter, 4 or 5 chapters myself. And in true Amo Raju style, that's when I put it down. I said, I can't do anymore. There are better people out there who can write than me. So I reached out over social media on LinkedIn and came across a girl called Manny Hare, who equally had her own battles with depression. And so we clicked and resonated straight away. And one of the first things she said to me was, I can only write this if you're going to be, open, warts and all. I want everything. I want to get inside your head. And I feel sorry for her, because it wasn't a pleasant place to be. She really got in there and scooped out a lot of the stuff that I had never talked about. The only person I'd ever shared it with was my therapist. And it ended up being, we used to have these weekly Zoom sessions, where she'd say, right, Emma, what happened now? And then tell me, step by step what happened. And every time after we'd sign off, I'd sit there exhausted, because I felt like I'd gone through a whole hour of therapy again. Sometimes I'd sit there and laugh. Sometimes I'd cry, because a lot of thoughts had resurfaced, which I'd buried for a long time. But that was all good. That was all important, because once you've read the book, people will realize that there's stuff in there that is so deep that it's everybody keeps, the feedback I'm getting is that, the typical quotes are, that's happened to me, I understand now, and oh gosh, yeah, I'm not alone. These thoughts that you're having in this, there's something that the character AJ does a lot, which I know I do, and perhaps you do as well. But when we're having a conversation with somebody, you're having one conversation with them, but you're having a separate conversation in your head, what you're really thinking. And AJ does a lot of that in the book. And that came out quite strongly with a couple of readers. They said, I didn't realize that other people did that. I thought it was just me. But AJ's brought that out to the surface and made it quite human to do that. To have a separate conversation in your own head.
Do you know, the other thing that I think has been very brave that you've done, Amo, is, we're both Indians from Asian background, is disability has been looked at and frowned upon in many, many ways over the years by our community in particular. And by you coming out there and talking about the Asian community and the Asian background, that's a very powerful statement. So the first thing I want to do is thank you and congratulate you for doing that. But I wonder, have you had any sort of backlash or any comments from people in the Asian community about what you've done so far, or has it all been very positive?
No, I'm really glad you asked that, because that was a worry that I had.
Yeah,
because there are some subjects within the Asian culture that are just taboo. You don't go there.
That's right.
And we have this unqualified, unjustified respect for some from uncles and aunties, which we call them, who tend to have a lot of say in our lives, even though they're not even related to us or something. But my worry was, because in the book I do attack the culture within the Asian community, that they shaped some of my relationship with depression. In fact, they caused some of it. There's one episode in there. I was 11 years old, probably 9-10 years old. I'll never get the age right, but it was around then. And I was sitting innocently watching TV, a children's TV program. And there was a group of 4 or 5 aunties, Asian women that had come to see my mum. My mum went into the kitchen to make some tea. And I could overhear them speaking in Punjabi, and loosely translated, they were talking about my lack of marriage prospects because I was a disabled person. Who's going to marry him? Who's going to give them their daughter? Those kind of conversations are going on. And they was probably just having that conversation in their own way, innocently. But what that did to me mentally, I was only a child, and suddenly I was starting to worry about, hang on, is somebody, no one going to marry me? Why aren't they going to marry me? What's wrong with me? Those kind of things are, and they still happen. They still happen. 30, 40 years later, I'm coming across teenagers from the Asian community who are still having that fear, because the culture within the Asian community is still that a disabled person is very, very inferior. It's a no go in terms of marriage prospects. So and that was something I had to put in the book, and it was something that's again resonated so well with people that and they're thankful. They said you're covering subjects that would never get discussed. They won't. So yeah, these kind of things, those conversations need to be had. And I'm a little bit. I've not had any negative feedback from anybody yet in terms of you shouldn't have gone there in that particular area in the book or something, because I've had, there's 3 conversations in there which I've had with 3 priests. I've had it with a hospital clergy, hospital chaplain who came to see me. She wasn't trying to convert me to Christianity, but I've had a conversation with a Muslim imam and a Sikh priest as well. And people were saying, gosh, you need to be careful when you're talking about religion. But I didn't say anything in there that was going to offend any of the religions. What I did do was have honest conversations as to disabled people and their relationship with God, and what the different holy books views are on God. And to be honest with you, they're all saying the same thing. No one's saying anything different. It was just about, again, having that conversation and being able to do it. And I say so many disabled people have said, gosh, they're saying it's a brave thing I did. To me, it was no, these conversations need to be had. So I'm so far I've had no backlash.
Excellent.
Good news.
It's funny. I remember when Isham was born, Amo. There were a lot of Asian community that sort of, the word on the street was, what did Hardeep do wrong in his previous reincarnated life to deserve having a disabled child? And what did that disabled child do wrong to deserve being born as a disabled child in a community? And, some of these things are so painful when you hear them, and, you realize that actually these people that you thought were your friends, actually they're not your friends, and I think you find over a period of time with disability, especially when it's acquired over a period of time, that actually these people that you thought were your friends and were going to support you actually start dropping off one by one, and that's, it's sad, but it's a reality, isn't it? It's sort of the world we live in. And I think we have to learn to accept that that's just going to happen, right? And those people were not meant to be in our lives.
I think what I've found, I'm old enough now to have experienced, watched people who in my younger days had those opinions that you did something wrong, or your parents did something wrong, or something else happened somewhere along the line. And then those same people later on, in decades later, have acquired some kind of impairment. And I don't take pleasure in saying anything to them as, what have we done wrong? Has something else, something else. They just look at me, and some of them times they're embarrassed to have said something stupid many, many years ago. And it's just one of those things. We're not going to change that mentality overnight. So you may recall, and your viewers may be aware of, there used to be an England football manager called Glenn Hoddle.
Yes.
And he made that comment. And he was sacked from his profession because he said that disabled people had done something wrong in a previous incarnation. And so they sacked him. And I was sitting in a room full of Indian aunties, and when that was on the news channel, and then they said, "What's it about?" And I told them. And instead of being alarmed by what he said, they agreed to go, yes, he's right. Yeah, you're right. Disabled people have done something wrong. So, that mentality is going to change over time. It's not going to happen overnight.
Something that I really want to highlight that you said, in addition to everything we're talking about, it's so important. When we're children, in many cases, we don't know any differently than what we know until someone points something out. And they point something out, and now it's like a big, oh, I didn't realize XYZ, that I have something wrong with me, or that you think there's something wrong with me. And then we have to sit with that, and we have to live with that. In my case, having been diagnosed with ulcerative colitis in 1991, the dreaded bathroom disease, I've talked about it, but people have said to me so many times, it's in your mind, it's all in your mind, or you don't know how to deal with stress. Okay, great. What am I supposed to do with that information? I mean, are you now taking over the medical community and your opinion? But people feel like they have to give it. They have to give their opinion, even though nobody asked for it.
There's this self-proclaimed journalists that the critics, everybody seems to think they've got to give you the answer to your problems, even though they have no knowledge of it, no background understanding of what it is. And my argument constantly is, let's stop talking about the impairment. Let's stop talking about let's be realistic. No two people are the same. Usain Bolt can run 100 meters. Is the fastest man in the world at one stage. Does that mean everybody else who couldn't run it was a disabled person compared to him? And that's what we've got to understand. Everybody is individual. Everybody can achieve things. There are things that the three of us can do that the rest of the society can't do. That's just, we're programmed very differently in all of us. And we need to look at the abilities, not the disability. We need to look at what people are capable of, because everybody got something to offer. A lot of the greatest minds in history, Abraham Lincoln, he had depression. Winston Churchill had depression. These Einstein had depression. These are people who, you can't look at what's wrong with them, what's bothering them. You've got to look at what are they doing, what fantasticness have they got about them that we need to celebrate. And that's where we've gone wrong. We feel as a society that it's important to pigeonhole somebody, that you are only capable of that because historically that's what your kind have been asked and placed to do. So we need to kind of break those chains and say, no, look at me, I'm capable of a lot. Like I said, I used to sing on stage to thousands of people. And so many disabled people said to me, wow, I never thought I could see a disabled person singing and making people dance. I never, and I never thought anything of it while I was doing it. I just thought I was having a good time on stage. Years later, people say to me, you inspired so-and-so to pick up a musical instrument because they wanted to do something. And in that, as far as I'm concerned, job done. People need to see live examples of what we achieved.
For sure. Well, once again, I cannot believe that it's the end of the show. No commercial breaks. We could still keep going on and on. So, tell our audience about your book again and where they can get it.
So, the book is called Walk Like a Man. It's available on Amazon in all countries. And as I say, I'm donating 10% of the profits to my charity as well. So and it's not really about making money on this. I wanted to get a message out. The message is so important to me. I want to inspire the next generation of disabled people. I want other disabled people to come forward as well, because it's not just me. There are people working out there, other disabled people in all parts of the world, doing great things that haven't put pen to paper. All I want them to do is get them to put pen to paper as well and say, look at my story. And the truth is, everyone's got a story to tell. You just don't realize it until you start putting, start tapping on the keyboard or putting pen to paper. Oh, gosh, I didn't realize. Yes, I did that. I've achieved this. And before you realize it, somebody else will be able to resonate with some of the things that you did and say, hang on, I want to do that, and Dave did it this way. He did it that way. She did it that way. I want to learn from that. And before we realize that we're creating templates for the next generation of disabled people, and that's so needed. There will, we are always going to be in a world where people need inspiration, and disabled people quite rightly need to have inspiration from other disabled people. When I was growing up, I didn't see many disabled people on the TV or in the media, or doing anything constructive. They were mainly locked away in care homes or residential homes. Now they're out, they're able to do some great things, run businesses, be on TV, become authors, run whatever they want to do, they can do it. The Paralympics is your classic example of what can be achieved with with the right support mechanisms around you. So all I want to do with Walk Like a Man, as I say, is to be able to inspire a whole next generation of disabled people to be able to learn from your strengths, turn that disability, own that disability. Don't be ashamed of it, own it. It's yours, and make it yours, and run with it. Do whatever you need to do with it, because nobody else is going to be able to have that expertise that you've got. So bottle it and sell it.
What a great way to close out this show. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amo. It's been you've gone over and beyond, over and above what I imagined. I really enjoyed listening to you and hearing your story today, Amo. So thank you so much for sharing, and particularly for me, that perspective between charities and businesses is really insightful. So I think if people are listening to that, I think there were some really valuable tips that you gave there, over your 3 decades of experience. So thank you so much for coming and sharing with us today, Amo. And well done on your book. Many congratulations. That's great that you achieved that.
It's
very
a pleasure.
inspiring.
Thank you very much. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of the year. Be safe and healthy, and keep spreading joy as you are, inspiring everyone.
Thank you. Seasonal greetings to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amo. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Cheers. Once again, you've brought another fantastic human being to the platform. Thank you.
My pleasure, Jacalyn. I loved the show. I thought he was really very genuine, wasn't he, in the way that he came across? Very human, very real, kind of what you see is what you get, which is what I'm beginning to see in this show is coming through, is that they're real people and they're talking about real journeys, but those journeys are inspirational because of the challenges that these guys are going through, but they're not highlighting those challenges. They're just highlighting what they can achieve. Which is
absolutely amazing. I'd like to ask him back for one of our other shows, Stories of Hope, Inspiration, Overcoming Adversity, because he's so successful, and yet he carried this secret, his words, a secret that he carried and told no one except his therapist. How did he achieve everything he achieved when he was living this secret, right? And also going through the whole depression and what that must feel like. And something else I wanted to ask him is, for people watching and listening, how does one know if they have a negative attitude? There are people who are just basically always negative, or if they just are someone who's typically sad, looking at things from a certain perspective, or if they truly have depression. I think that needs to be really addressed and looked at so that people can find answers.
It's a really good point. That's a whole nother show.
Yeah, it is.
It's like, yeah, that's a brilliant.
We'll have him back on this show to talk about that. We'll have him on Stories of Hope and Inspiration, as long as he's, and we can also have him on the Corner Bookstore to talk specifically about the book. So there you go. Yeah. We will be seeing Amo again. All right, and Hardeep, I'm going to put up your contact information, and do tell our audience how they can reach you and who you would like to reach out.
Sure. So you can reach me on hardeep.rai@kaleidoscope.group. That's Hardeep, HARDEEP.RAI, RAI @kaleidoscope.group. Any person with a disability, first of all, that would love to be on our show, we'd love to hear from you. If you've achieved something or you're in the middle of doing something, we'd love to hear from you. Anything it could be, but that you'd like to get out there to other people with disabilities and without, to share. And from a Kaleidoscope point of view, of course, entrepreneurs looking to start your own businesses, people with disabilities that are looking to find employment, or even companies that are looking to hire disabled people or to learn more about disability. We'd love to hear from you. There's so much work that we all have to do as a collective to create opportunities for people with disabilities. There's so much, and we can only do it through working together. So, just like many people have reached out on LinkedIn and said, Jacalyn, the nicest thing is people say, I'm here, I'm with you, what can we do? How can we get involved? That's almost the best approach we could get, because then we can sort of understand their background and see how we can help to link in what we're trying to do with what their experience is. But I think getting involved in sort of changing perceptions towards disability in so many different ways is what we'd love to hear from people about.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. We are going to close out this show. Actually, I'm going to play one of our sponsorships from Trish Roberts' show at Changing Paces. Hardeep and I will look forward to seeing you next week. And I will be right back from another studio with the Listening Mentor. And my guest is Caroline Heward. And we talk all about how to authentically listen. So let's take a look, and we'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Jacalyn.
Thank you.
The world is changing, and your company needs to change with it. Whether it's procurement, employment, marketing, or customer service, it's now more important than ever for your business processes to be inclusive to people with disabilities. Hi, I'm Trish Roberts with Changing Paces, and I'm here to tell you that making your business processes accessible to people with disabilities is simply good for business. Accessibility and inclusion are the law. But here's what you may not realize. Disability inclusion is an opportunity, not an obstacle. In fact, a recent 4-year study found that companies that fully embrace disability inclusion had a 30% higher profit margin than those that didn't. Your investment in staff disability inclusiveness training can pay off in areas like innovation, brand recognition, as well as customer and employee satisfaction and loyalty, not to mention productivity and profitability. At Changing Paces, we can help you make that happen for your business. Our experts have real-life experience that will help your team gain insight and best practices they won't get anywhere else. And we can help you create a customized training program to bring your organization into compliance with local and industry regulations. This topic is very close to my heart for me, very personal. Dealing with the challenges of MS for the past 25 plus years and having lost my job as a result of my diagnosis back then, I've made it my mission to bring disability out of the darkness and create a more welcoming environment for people of all abilities. As a pioneer in the field of inclusiveness, our company developed and implemented one of the first accessible customer service training programs in Canada. We provide complete online training solutions that blend with your branding, your policies, and your systems. Between our disability subject matter experts and our technical partners, we can provide you with both the content and the platform that you need to create an evergreen training program that empowers your people while it transforms your organization and your company culture. In short, we make disability inclusion easy in all parts of your business. Contact us now for a quote or consultation at info@changingpaces.com. Your bottom line will thank you.